English, 3 knights system. c4, e5, knight c3. Here, white does a normal opening, but for this traps to work, white needs to turn this common and opening the filleter traps. Knight c6, knight f3, g5, d4, pawn takes d4, knight d5, bishop g7, bishop g5, knight e7. To stop black queen from being taken, black does e7, knight takes d4, pawn for knight, bishop takes d4, queen takes d4, knight takes d4. Now white lost a queen, but this is for a reason. It's removing the bishop like the concept, remove the defender. Knight f6 check. King f8. Bishop h6, checkmate. The Scotch gambit traps. e4. e5. Knight f3. Knight c3. d4. Pawn takes d4. Black takes the supposed free pawn given by white. Well, it's a gambit, but it's really to do the Scotch gambit traps. Knight g5. h6. Knight takes f7. King takes f7. White gives away the knight, another sacrifice, for position and the traps. The force mate sequence will now begin. Bishop c4. Check. King e8. Queen h5. Check. Black is now forced to go to g6 or e6. Both will lose for black. g6. Queen takes g6. Check. King e7. Queen f7. Check. The bishop and queen line is a huge part of this traps. King d6. Bishop f4. Check. King c5. Queen d5. Check. King b4. Queen b5. Checkmate. The Ponziani traps. e4. e5. Knight f3. Knight c6. c3. Knight f6. d4. Knight takes e4. The black knight takes the e4 thinking it's free, but little does he know this is part of the Ponziani opening traps. d5. Knight e7. Black knight is getting pushed inwards, just as white wants. Knight takes e5. d6. Here a free pawn for white too. Bishop e5 check. c6. Black defends the check. Pawn takes c6. Pawn takes e5. Pawn for knight. Well, you'll see why. Pawn takes b7 check. Check and forking a bishop and rook, but this traps looks for the checkmate. Bishop b7. Pawn takes a8, promote to queen. To queens for white already, and black needs to make effort to stop this. Queen takes a8. Queen takes d7 checkmate. Now, checkmate for white, without black taking a8, a checkmate would came either way.
The Staunton Gambit. d4. f5. e4. Pawn takes e4. Knight c3. Knight f6. Bishop g5. e6. Knight takes e4. Bishop e7. Bishop takes f6. Bishop takes f6. Knight c3. b6. Bishop d3. Bishop b7. Short castle. Short castle. Knight e5. Knight c6. Queen h5. Queen e7. Queen takes h7. King takes h7. Knight takes f6. Check. King h6. Knight g4. Check. King g5. f4. Check. King h4. g3. Check. King h3. Knight f2. Checkmate. Traps in Ruy Lopez. e4. e5. Knight f3. Knight c6. Bishop b5. Knight f6. Short castle. Knight takes e4. d5. Pawn takes d5. Rook e1. d5. Queen takes d5. a6. Bishop takes c6. Pawn takes c6. Knight g5. Queen f6. Knight takes e4. Queen takes d4. Knight f6. Check. King d8. Rook e8. Checkmate.